This is the story of Nina Thompson, a 27-year-old software tester who lived alone in a rented one-bedroom apartment in Seattle, Washington. She had been working at a tech company called DigiNext Solutions for almost 3 years. Her job was demanding, her routine mechanical: home, work, laptop, deadlines, sleep, repeat. Nina's apartment was on the 4th floor of an old building called Silver Ridge Apartments. The building wasn't luxurious, but it was quiet. Too quiet. The walls were thin, the pipes old, and the plumbing made strange noises at night. Gurgles, knocks, sometimes a distant echo. She had gotten used to it, until the faucet started running. It began one Friday night around 12:07 a.m. Nina had just finished a late testing report and was scrolling through her phone before bed. The room was dimly lit by her laptop screen. Then suddenly she heard the sound of running water coming from the kitchen. At first she thought she had left the tap open, but when she walked in, the faucet was fully running. Steady, strong. She turned it off, a little irritated, thinking the water pressure was fluctuating. She went back to her room. Barely 5 minutes later, the sound came again. This time louder, like someone had opened it on purpose. She frowned, walked back, and again it was running. Drops splashed on the counter and trickled down the sink. She turned it off, pressed the handle tight, and stood there for a few seconds. Everything was still. She whispered under her breath, "What the hell?" and went back to her room. That night she couldn't sleep. The next morning she told her neighbor, Mrs. Douglas, an elderly woman who lived in the apartment across the hall. Mrs. Douglas smiled faintly. "Oh, honey, it's this building. The plumbing's ancient. You'll get used to it." Nina nodded, though she wasn't convinced. She had lived there for 6 months and it had never happened before. That night she made sure the kitchen tap was completely shut before sleeping. She even placed a towel under it, just in case. But at exactly 12:03 a.m. the sound started again. Only this time, she noticed something new. The bathroom faucet was also running. Both taps, at once. She turned them off again, checked the valves under the sink, and went back to bed. But she could still hear water trickling, faint, rhythmic, almost like breathing. The following morning she called a plumber. He checked the lines, replaced a washer, and assured her everything was fine. "Probably air in the pipes, ma'am. Happens in older buildings," he said with a shrug. That night, Nina came home from work around 11:30 p.m. She made tea, opened her laptop, and started replying to emails. When the clock struck midnight, she froze. The faucet in the kitchen turned on by itself again. This time, she didn't rush to turn it off. She quietly walked toward the kitchen. The water was flowing, cold and steady. The metal tap handle was moving slightly, as if someone invisible was touching it. Her phone vibrated on the counter, a message from her coworker Alyssa. "Hey, are you still up? Check your email. Client's report got corrupted." Nina sighed, distracted for a moment. When she looked up again, the faucet had stopped. She exhaled in relief, thinking maybe she was imagining things. But when she turned around to go back to her room, she slipped slightly. The floor behind her was wet, not just a few drops, a trail of water, leading from the bathroom door to the kitchen sink, like footprints made of water. She stood frozen. The air around her felt heavy, damp, cold. She slowly opened the bathroom door. Inside, the mirror was fogged, even though the shower hadn't been used. And written faintly in the mist were 3 words, "I'm still here." Nina backed away immediately and called the building's night security guard, Robert, a quiet man in his 40s. He came up, checked every corner, and laughed nervously. "Ma'am, maybe someone played a prank? These units are all connected by the same old pipes. Water gets pumped up from the basement tank every night." But when Robert saw the words on the mirror, his smile vanished. He muttered, "Basement tank," and left quickly, refusing to stay longer. Nina didn't sleep that night. She kept the lights on and set up her phone to record video, pointing it at the kitchen sink. At 12 a.m., nothing happened. At 12:15, still quiet. But at 12:24, The faucet slowly began to move, turning on by itself. The sound of rushing water filled the room. And then, something else came through. A low, muffled voice, like someone speaking underwater. She replayed the video in the morning. When she enhanced the audio, she could hear it clearly. A whisper that said, "Let me out." That evening, she confronted the building manager, Mr. Miller, about the basement. He looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, you really shouldn't go down there. It's locked now." Nina pressed further, and he finally admitted the truth. 2 years ago, a tenant named Kevin Parker had gone missing from the same building. They found his wallet and phone near the basement tank, but his body was never recovered. The police closed the case quietly. That night, Nina couldn't resist. She went down to the basement. The air smelled of rust, mold, and stagnant water. The tank was huge, steel, moss-covered, and dripping with condensation. And right beneath the main valve, the one that fed her floor, someone had carved into the metal, "Don't shut it off." Her hands trembled as she turned to leave, but she slipped. Her flashlight fell clattering across the concrete. The beam landed near the tank, illuminating wet footprints leading away into the dark hallway. Then came the faint sound of dripping water, followed by the voice again, closer this time. "Let me out." The next morning, Robert found Nina's phone lying by the basement door. The final video recording was just 42 seconds long. It showed a shaky light, her voice whispering, "Who's there?" Then the faucet turned on by itself, the sound of water filling the camera's mic until everything went black. One last distorted whisper could be heard on the audio. "You shouldn't have turned it off." Since that night, Nina's apartment has remained empty. But the new tenants in Silver Ridge Apartments still complain about one thing. At exactly 12:03 a.m., every tap in the building turns on for a few minutes. And sometimes, they say you can hear someone crying softly beneath the sound of the running water.